끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea has reported at least 19 deaths so far this summer due to apparent heat-related illnesses. Authorities scramble to send remedies for the tens of thousands gathered at the World Scout Jamboree. A series of recent stabbing rampages is prompting South Korea to introduce life imprisonment without parole. This following an incident at a shopping mall on Thursday that led to at least 14 people being injured. For the first time in 9 years, China executes a South Korean man for a drug offense. Seoul's foreign ministry expresses regret as it requested Beijing to reconsider or delay the punishment on humanitarian grounds. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with the extreme temperatures continuing to wreak havoc on South Korea. The death toll so far this summer due to apparent heat-related illnesses has more than tripled from that of last year. Responding to the deadly heat waves, the country's disaster response headquarters raises its emergency operation to level 2 for the first time. Our Iuni leads us off.
At least 19 people have been killed so far this summer due to apparent heat-related illnesses, as South Korea continues to swelter under prolonged extreme temperatures. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency announced on Friday that one more death has been added, which is presumed to be heat-related. It also said 122 people visited the emergency rooms on Thursday due to heat-related illnesses. This brings the total number as of Thursday from May 20th to 1,520. It's a nearly 40% increase compared to the same period last year. The death toll is more than 3 times higher. Out of the 19 fatalities, at least 13 of them were those aged 70 and above, accounting for approximately 70%.
The vulnerable populations are mostly elderly individuals with weaker health and more susceptible to heat. Also, those who work outdoors, especially farmers, are vulnerable to such illness because they may underestimate the heat in the morning and end up experiencing heat-related illness while working.
Responding to the extreme heat wave, South Korea's disaster response headquarters raised its emergency operation to level 2 on Thursday for the very first time. The Ministry of the Interior and Safety said the new level was initiated as over 108 regions across the country were expecting the fields-like temperatures to reach over 35 degrees Celsius for the next 3 days. The agency has 3 emergency duty stages to prepare against disaster or crisis, with level 3 being the highest. Authorities urged for caution against the heat as daytime highs on Friday hovered in the mid-30s nationwide, with temperatures rising to as high as 38 degrees Celsius in some areas.
The temperature in Seoul is likely to reach 34 degrees Celsius on Friday, and over the weekend is likely to reach up to 36 degrees.
He added the scorching heat in the country will continue until next week, with temperatures hovering at around 36 degrees Celsius. 이은희, Arirang News.
Authorities are scrambling to send more remedies to protect tens of thousands of young scouts gathered in South Korea's Saemangeum area from the scorching heat. That includes medics, freezer trucks, cooling buses, and air-conditioned spaces. Our Choi Soo-hyung reports.
As the World Scout Jamboree in Korea is being marred by heat-related illnesses, hygiene issues and COVID-19 outbreaks, the government has taken action to respond to the situation. On Friday, President Yoon Suk-yeol approved a $5.2 million budget for the response. One of the organizing committees, the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, on the same day decided to increase the supply of ice-cold water bottles per person per day to 5, more cooling masks, hats, sunscreen and ice packs to ensure the safety of the participants. The committee will also install and run 130 cooling buses and 10 freezer trucks. The number of cleaning and pest control personnel has increased from 70 to nearly 550. The organizing committee reported that until Friday, almost 1,500 people had visited hospitals, with approximately 800 of them receiving treatment for heat-related illnesses, as well as bug bites and sunburn. Also, since the start of the event on August 1st, there have been 28 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 2 Scout members have left, but there have been no announcements of any group outbreaks yet. In light of these circumstances, the organizing committee temporarily stopped 170 out of 173 outdoor activities where participants would be exposed directly to the scorching heat. Amidst global attention, the committee acknowledged concerns regarding communication, shortcomings in event preparation systems, and the challenging environment. They assure that they are fully aware of these issues and will take full responsibility to ensure the event concludes safely. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
A shocking stabbing rampage at a local shopping mall has prompted discussions to step up public safety in Korea. Police will conduct special safety operations while the Justice Ministry is pushing for life imprisonment without parole for such criminal cases. Our Kim Do-yeon with the details.
With 2 random knife attacks in broad daylight within just 2 weeks, there are government-wide efforts to restore safety. On Friday, the country's top police officer declared a period of special security activities until the public's concerns are eased, and asked for cooperation from the people in the questioning and searching of suspicious individuals. He also ordered police to not hold back in the use of force to protect residents.
We will not hesitate to employ legitimate police force, including tasers and firearms, when dealing with violent criminals using dangerous weapons. Upholding the safety of the people is the top priority, and we will actively apply provisions for the exoneration of police officers to support law enforcement in the field.
This comes after the presidential office said President Yoon Suk-yeol ordered the police to be fully mobilized and to carry effective and powerful equipment to prevent any attacks on civilians, as he labeled the latest attack in Bundang, Gyeonggi-do province an act of terrorism. The Justice Ministry also announced that it is pushing for life sentences without the possibility of parole for such crimes of violence. With the recent shocking attacks, some in South Korea have been calling for the revival of the death penalty, but the ministry has been careful with regards to this in the discussion. Life without parole is seen by other countries as an alternative to the death penalty, and the ministry says this initiative will be carried out irrelevant to the Constitutional Court's decision on the retention of capital punishment. In the meantime, the latest attack in Bundang on Thursday evening has left 14 people injured, with 2 known to be in a critical condition. The suspect, a 22-year-old man surnamed Che, drove his vehicle into a storefront, hitting pedestrians, and then proceeded to attack more victims with a knife. He was detained by police at the scene. This came just 13 days after another random knife attack in Shillin-dong in western Seoul by a man who killed 1 person and wounded 3 others. Following this incident, a series of threats about committing similar crimes were posted online, with the latest attack in Bundang adding fuel to the fire. Police have arrested a number of suspects who made such threats, and more officers have been deployed to locations mentioned in the threats. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea is considering whether to adopt life imprisonment without parole for certain violent crimes. Discussions have begun about whether this will help prevent further motiveless crimes being committed that seemingly target unspecified groups of people. Our Lee Si-woo spoke with experts in the field to find out.
According to the current law, a prisoner may be released on parole after serving 20 years of a life sentence. And while there is a heavier sentence than life in prison, the death penalty, South Korea has not actually used it since 1997.
There have been no executions even for the most serious criminal offenders, so the social effectiveness of criminal punishment and its deterrence of crime has been weakened. I think the life imprisonment without parole would at least help prevent social hazards.
Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole also could provide relief, especially for the victims who fear the day of release.
Victims fear retaliation from offenders, as the offender's release on parole is expected after 20 years. But there's no possibility of that with life imprisonment without parole that permanently separates the offenders from society.
But as for preventing and responding to these rising cases of motiveless crimes, there needs to be comprehensive efforts from society.
These crimes target unspecified groups of people at unexpected times and locations, so it's difficult to predict their occurrence. For the types of people who commit these types of crimes, there needs to be monitoring, management, treatment, and care.
There also needs to be a comprehensive study and collection of data and statistics on these crimes to further help the police take on a more active role in the prevention of another tragedy. Rather than responding to the crimes, they should move towards active prevention.
There's a lot that needs to be done. More probation, reform of prison and criminal justice, and prioritization of safety by the central and regional governments. But what we can do immediately is proactive police patrol at public facilities and cooperation of the public and private security forces.
Experts say that with the choices between life imprisonment with the possibility of parole and the death penalty abolished in practice, life imprisonment without parole could offer a middle ground. 이시후, Arirang News.
South Korea's National Security Adviser Taeung says the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will discuss missile defense cooperation, which includes sharing warning data on North Korean missiles during their trilateral summit in Washington later this month. Speaking to reporters at Incheon International Airport before heading to Saudi Arabia to attend multinational peace talks concerning Ukraine, Cho stressed that the upcoming summit will become a diplomatically important event. He also expressed hopes on the summit playing a crucial role in building peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. On the possibility of the three-way summit becoming a regular gathering, he said they're building a consensus on the issue and added that the final decision will be made after the leaders discuss the matter. China on Friday executed a South Korean drug offender for trying to sell 5 kilograms of methamphetamine. This is the first time in 9 years that a Korean national has been executed in China for drug offenses. The man was first arrested in 2014 and then sentenced in 2019. Under Chinese law, anyone smuggling, selling, transporting, or manufacturing over 50 grams of meth or heroin or over 1 kilogram of opium can be sentenced to death or up to life in prison with a minimum sentence of 15 years. An official from Seoul's foreign ministry expressed deep regret over the matter, saying that the government had requested humanitarian consideration multiple times after the conviction for execution was confirmed. Now, over in the U.S., former President Donald Trump has pleaded his innocence in response to the latest indictment against him that is linked to his push to overturn the 2020 election. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Not guilty. That's how former U.S. President Donald Trump responded Thursday when faced with charges of conspiring to overturn his 2020 presidential election defeat. The former president attended the arraignment at a Washington courthouse located just a kilometer away from the U.S. Capitol, where his supporters stormed on January 6, 2021, in a bid to stop Congress from certifying his defeat. Trump faces a total of 4 charges, including conspiracy to defraud the U.S., depriving U.S. citizens of their voting rights, and obstructing an official proceeding. The arraignment comes after a 45-page indictment on Tuesday, where special counsel Jack Smith accused the former U.S. leader and his allies of knowingly promoting false claims that the election was rigged while pressuring state and federal officials to alter the results of the 2020 presidential election. After his not guilty plea, Trump expressed his discontent, calling the move a political persecution.
When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him.
The latest indictment marks the third for Trump in just 4 months. He pleaded not guilty to New York State charges that he falsified documents in connection with hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels in April, and also pleaded not guilty to federal charges that he retained classified documents after leaving office in June. However, there could be more charges for the former president, this time in the state of Georgia, as a state prosecutor is investigating his attempts to overturn the election lost there. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Russia's defense ministry said Friday its forces have repelled separate Ukrainian drone attacks on Crimea and a nearby Black Sea naval base in southwest Russia. In a statement, the ministry said that 2 uncrewed boats targeted the Novorossiysk naval base. The ministry also said it downed 10 drones over Crimea. No casualties or damage have been reported. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Thursday in his nightly video address that Ukraine's military faced difficulties on the front lines in the east and south of the country, but were dominant in their campaign. Also on the international front, ISIS confirmed on Thursday local time the death of its leader, Abu Hussein al-Quraishi. According to Reuters, the announcement was made on the group's Telegram channel and revealed that the leader was killed during a battle in Syria. This is reportedly the group's first official acknowledgement of the leader's death since Turkey's claim of having killed him back in April. ISIS has named Abu Hafs al-Hashimi al-Quraishi as its new leader. South Korea's minimum wage for next year has been officially set at 9,860 Korean won or $7.53 per hour. This was decided on by the Minimum Wage Commission about 2 weeks ago, and the Ministry of Employment and Labor officially confirmed it on Friday. Unions had raised objections and requested a re-evaluation before it was made official. But the government did not take these into account, saying the decision was based on the tough economic times and conditions in the labor market. Tonight, we have a special story about an American couple who lived in Korea back in the 1960s and 70s as members of the Peace Corps, an American volunteer organization. Korea was going through a tough time recovering from the Korean War. This couple recently donated more than 1,000 pictures, old paintings, and books back to the country. Al-Culture correspondent Song Yu-jin met them.
For Gary and Marianne Mintier, Korea holds a special place in their hearts.
I always say Urinada. We weren't born here, but it's Urinada.
Back in 1969, the Mintiers came to Korea as Peace Corps volunteers and worked as English instructors for 6 years. During that time, they developed a keen interest in old Korean artworks.
When I was in college, I took one art course, and it had a little bit of Asian art. And I liked it then, and then when we came to Korea, we didn't have a lot of money at first, but when I could, I would buy a certain piece of art that I'd seen in a store, and my wife would buy me one for anniversaries and birthdays.
Their collection grew to include a total of 150 books, paintings, and calligraphic works. Among them is a painting by Song Soo-myeon, a renowned painter of the late Joseon dynasty. However, this year, the Mintiers made the decision to donate all their cherished pieces to Korea, including 1,000 photos they took during their stay, which captured Korea's struggle to heal the scars of war.
We were really fortunate to be in Korea at that time, when many Koreans had other priorities, right? And art wasn't necessarily one of them. And So I said it's time to give them back to Korea. I mean, Korea gave us so much while we were here and even afterwards.
The Overseas Korean Cultural Heritage Foundation has played a crucial role.
We first learned about the Mintiers collection in 2017 through an instructor at the University of Southern California. Over the years, we built a strong sense of trust through email exchanges, which I think ultimately led to this generous donation.
Marking the occasion, the Mintiers have returned to Korea, their third visit after departing in 1975. The most recent was 2013. They say they're always amazed by the remarkable progress Korea has made. But one thing remains unchanged.
The Korean people are still the same. They still have that warmth, that heart, that giving that they had that made us stay when we came, right?
Yeah, most Peace Corps volunteers came for 2 years. We stayed 6.5 years.
The photographs taken by the Mintiers are currently on display at the Busan Museum, while the artworks will be unveiled at the National Library of Korea in Seoul next April. 송유진, Arirang News.
As pets, dogs share close living environments with humans. This means when a dog gets sick, this could also indicate that there could be a health risk for people who share a living space with the dog. Local researchers have created the world's first reference map of the dog epigenome, which is expected to be a new tool in detecting environmental risk factors. Yoon-jin has the details.
In 1955, in the city of Minamata, Japan, cats showed symptoms of convulsions, then flung themselves into the sea. The following year, similar symptoms started to show in people. This Minamata disease turned out to be caused by mercury poisoning. The symptoms showed earlier in cats because they have an accelerated biological clock compared to humans. Decades later, local scientists have now furthered their research into another animal that people share so much with. They have created what's being called an epigenome catalog of the dog, which can act as an early warning for environmental risk factors.
There are many switches in our DNA that control gene activity. We can call this switch an epigenome. Depending on the environment we are exposed to, it can change greatly.
The research team closely examined 11 major dog tissues, including the brain, liver, and stomach, to create a high-quality reference map of the dog epigenome. As the dog epigenome closely resembles the human epigenome, this allows a form of decoding. So when a dog contracts a disease, this new map allows a reading of how the environment has caused changes to the way genes work, which then acts as an early warning for people living in the same environment.
Dogs have a faster biological clock than humans. Their bodies react faster to environmental factors, which can predict symptoms that may later show in humans.
The latest findings were published in the international scientific journal Science Advances. The research team will look further into examining the epigenome mapping of the dog for specific diseases like cancer, then comparing it to the epigenome mapping of humans to find further relevant connections. 이은진, Arirang News.
The intense heat will continue to grip South Korea this weekend. Highs will be in the similar range tomorrow at 35 degrees Celsius in Seoul. Other regions such as Gangneung will be scorching hot at 37. Keep in mind that overnight conditions will be quite stuffy and hot, with temperatures surpassing 25 degrees. Drink plenty of water and try to stay indoors. Unstable atmospheric conditions across the south will lead to on and off showers tomorrow. For Jeollado and Gyeongsangdo provinces and Jeju Island, about 5 to 40 millimeters are in the forecast. And for those across the coastlines, please take extra precautions against high ocean waves this weekend. Stay away from the shorelines, piers, and breakwaters. Tomorrow, Seoul and Gwangju will be starting off at 26 degrees. Daytime highs in Seoul will get up to 35. Daejeon and Gwangju 36. Busan will be reaching 34 degrees. Until next Tuesday, highs will hover around 35 to 36 degrees in Seoul. Have a great weekend and hear the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for this Friday night newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a good night.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토 스팟.